All right, welcome in those who have joined remotely. Wanted to just briefly go over a few settings today. If you go to File and then Settings and then My Settings, I wanted to kind of go over this tab a little bit and show some different options that do exist. So here is first of all, my providers. This is actually what the list of providers that will show on your left-hand side of the resource schedules. Hopefully yours is set up to where you're just seeing the resource schedule probably of the partners that you work with most closely. I have mine set up for everyone, but you can just set yours up to be only looking at people you work closely with. The other one defaults to here. So this is a button right here which you can expand always so that your treatment notes screen or your assessment note screen is always expanded. So for those of you who haven't seen that before, there is a blue button on your treatment note screen or your assessment note screen that if you hit a blue arrow, it expands the field to make it much bigger. This actually gives you the opportunity to have it always expanded as soon as you open it. That's probably one of the biggest ones you could set up. And these are all just kind of personal preference things that I'm going through. So I may have mine. I had not had mine set up to do that. I may see what that looks like. I'm gonna go ahead and set that up. And then next is my resources. Not a hugely impactful screen. User settings. This is where you can pick your interaction window to be popping up or turning red. Mine is set for severe. I think most people are just set for severe. Yeah, just kind of reading through these. There really isn't any other huge practice changing. You can, whatever your home screen is, most people defaults to office visits. Probably just leave it there. I wouldn't change that, but you can have a default to labs or telephone encounters or something if you were so inclined. Now the structured notes in progress notes, you can change this to have it be new line, default, or responses in bold. Responses in bold are any HPI questions that are on templates. The responses automatically get bolded. Pros and cons, personal preferences, you can certainly do that. And then the new line, you've probably seen how some providers, their HPIs will kind of have one question line upon one question line, and it goes down instead of being written more in a prose format where you have more of a kind of traditional looking paragraph. The new line makes for a longer note. Some people have preferred it, some people have not. I had it for a little while. I went back to default as of recent just to kind of see what it looks like. You'll probably see some of your partners' notes that have either new line or default or responses in bold on their HPI information. Something to consider if you'd like to change that. Warnings, I wouldn't change anything here. We really don't have any references. You can set up to have up-to-date as an automatic reference within ECW. There's an update button, but it's almost yeah, you can log into it just additionally through a web browser. And one thing I don't like about having it set up in ECW, which I've had, is that it, as you know, with ECW, you can't go from screen to screen. You can't minimize one screen and maximize another, or have one screen open and minimize it to be able to see a different part of ECW. And the up-to-date window that ECW goes into, or the up-to-date goes into, has that same annoying feature, and so you can't necessarily minimize your progress note and have up-to-date open on one side. You actually have to close your progress note and then open up-to-date. So I find that using up-to-date in a different browser is preferable. Views, you know, there really aren't one view I like personally is the e-prescription screen from the treatment screen to be in classic view. Most people's, especially newer higher providers, are going to be set up this exact way. I doubt that anybody is having changes here. Apply medications in modern view. I like to take the RX history off of modern view in my hub. when you can have it on. It really doesn't matter. I just find that the classic view for the RX from the hub is a different view, and I can kind of show you that. So I have mine unchecked there. And then Messenger, you can have Messenger. You just want it available on all. That's the text message service that you can send text messages to patient. You want that available for all. Show hide. The only hide I have is to display insurance group at line item level payment posting. Also CPT copyright when logging into the application, and hide a reconcile menu from a quick launch application for the L Jelly Bean. Other than that, everything else is show, and then I like to have overview, history, CDSS, order sets, and templates as my defaulted items that are viewable from the right chart panel. I don't have alerts or labs TI at present personally. Defaults, I like my default super build to be star prenatal complicated. We went over that, how to set that setting up when we built the OB super build, and you can watch that YouTube video and see how that works for billing your OB visits. I think it's been a nice addition. That's really the only default I would change. P2P, don't worry about it right now. And that's pretty much it. And if you want me to just copy my settings to yours, I can do that through this copy my settings button. If anybody feel like your settings are suboptimal, let me know. We can get that probably fixed. You can assign your favorites people right here as well. You can configure them. I just have my team, a couple other folks that I've worked with individually, as I've covered different clinics. But you know, you've all seen what your favorite people look like. Now that I'm going to update mine here briefly. So I basically just have me and my team on my favorites list. Log in, log out, log back in. I'm going to change one more setting here briefly. I'm going to leave that one there. Okay, that's it. I'm going to log out and log back in here. Actually, I don't need to do that right now. So I'm going to show you a few different settings and what those settings mean. So I just showed you how you can update the screen to have your treatment and your assessment notes be automatically expanded. Let me show you what that means. So on my progress note within my diagnosis screen, many of you, I notice, have liked to write kind of your medical decision-making paragraphs, kind of the summary of the visit right here in this note section. You can have much more space to do that by clicking this blue arrow, which expands your notes. And apparently there's a setting now where you can have that automatically expanded always, which I just set mine up to do. I just haven't logged out, logged back in, so we haven't seen that yet. But I do think that that is a nice feature, certainly. And similarly, on your treatment screen, if you like to write your your treatment plan, your notes, your kind of medical decision making by diagnosis on your treatment notes, again, you have an expand button right here, this blue, so you have more space to write, and you're not writing off the screen and having to scroll and the like. So from here, another thing briefly about settings, I have mine set up to automatically default to clinical notes as opposed to notes, because clinical notes are not visible to the patient on their portal, but notes are. That's kind of an important setting to have set up. And I can show you how to make sure that that is set up for you. But I think having yours default to clinical notes is a good move. But if you don't necessarily mind that your patients can read what your treatment plans are, then leave it as notes. You know, frequently if you're going to write something maybe semi-private or something you're sort of an idea about what's going on with the patient that you're not wanting to scare the patient about, you can leave it there. But so I just like to put mine in clinical notes, again, not viewable to the patient. and those fields will automatically expand if you set up your settings to have more room to write your treatment plans. So let me show you where that setting is. So if I go to File, Settings, My Settings, it always takes me a second to nail this down. Here you go, it's under Defaults too. So the default tab for Notes under Treatment Screen and Progress Notes, you can change this to Clinical Notes as opposed to Notes. Then you'll have that automatically go to that screen where you can write your treatment notes, and again, not visible to the patient. So the other settings I would show you would be print fax lock settings. So that is File, Settings, and then you have print fax lock settings. And your lock settings, I've seen some of you are set up to do default style. Not a big deal. We've kind of decided as a group we liked Modern 2 the most. It has a CHC logo on the progress note. Recently, I've changed mine to Modern 3 in the past few months because it puts the assessment and the plan at the top of the note. I think that's a nice thing when you're reviewing old notes. I really like that actually. So it also has a CHC logo. So I'd say decide between Modern 2 and Modern 3 for your lock settings of what your notes look like. Just a little bit more aesthetically pleasing note. And those are really kind of the settings. I believe we've corrected everybody's review system settings to have just this looking list. You shouldn't have a bunch of blanks here and a bunch of odd looking things. And that is a view. We can change which categories you're able to view. I've created a new one here called Systems, which with green arrows allows you to default different a couple of launch points for review systems by system. That's something I've built. I've been using that. I've liked it. It's called Systems in Review Systems and goes through 2 or 3 questions within each one of those categories, and they all default to denies with a green arrow. So when they're positive, you do have to click in here and go in and change them or add additional review systems questions. But that's kind of a quicker hit way to do that. And similarly, another category which you can make available for you to be seeing is on physical exam. You have a new category, all of you do, called categories, and again, these are defaulted normals by a green arrow. And I find this to be a much faster way to document a physical exam that if I'm not using a physical exam that is in a template or a templated physical exam. So and you can just hit clear category, and I've actually created some defaults here. So you can create an otitis exam or a more in-depth belly exam, and you can do save notes as and create different personalized physical exam templates this way, just a couple of different things. So I think that's everything, showing you if I log out and if I log out, log back in, it will pull up my S Jelly Bean screen, which is a default setting, but that will have patient information on it, so I'm not going to do that, but I already showed you what those blue arrows, expansion arrows, do. I think that's all I have for everyone today. Again, these are ECW settings that I think are nice to have. Thanks.